A quick heads up, his birthday is tomorrow, so we've all been wishing him a early happy birthday.
Nice.
Thank you, Anna.
Happy birthday. Now, is it Clyde? Is it Mr. Drexler? It's like when I was in school, it was Drex. So
Clyde is good, Jermaine. No problem.
Okay, Clyde's good. Absolutely. So, Clyde, I want to start the conversation by saying that guys like Kobe Bryant, Klay Thompson, Gary Payton, they come from basketball backgrounds and basketball families. Do you come from a basketball family, or how did you get involved in the game?
Jermaine, that's a long question. I mean, I got a long answer to that, but to make it short, my brother played, everyone in my neighborhood played, and so it was obvious. But we played every sport every season. Nice. But as I began to grow, even though I was a better baseball and football player, I started to focus more on basketball.
Nice. It is interesting you mentioned your neighborhood, because being from Houston, you're familiar with guys like Don Chaney, and you're familiar with guys like Otis Birdsong. So
absolutely.
Was the University of Houston, was that a no-brainer, or were you familiar, or you were interested to go somewhere else?
Well, it was a no-brainer. I wanted to stay home, and they had some good players: Rob Williams, Larry Mishaw, and I thought if I could go there, we'd have a pretty good team. And I ended up convincing my good friend Michael Young to go. And the moment we got there, someone sent Guy Lewis, Hakeem Olajuwon. So that was Phi Slamma Jamma.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty good. That's an NBA caliber team in college.
Sure it is. Absolutely. And you being in school, playing a small forward. So when you get to the pros, now you have to transition to the two guard. So how was that transition for you?
Jermaine, I tell you what, I played power forward my rookie year because Hakeem Olajuwon had the red shirt. So I averaged like 14 and 11, right? 11 boards in college, which is pretty good as a freshman. But I tell you, and I get drafted as a small forward, two guard. But the first year I made the AllStar, I played point guard. I backed up Magic Johnson in the AllStar game. So you just have to work on your skill sets at all times, because you never know. You got to get in where you fit in. And so guys who are versatile, you got many more options for the coaches.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you talk about being versatile, Drex. You had a 5-year stretch where you went 25, 7, and 6. And a lot of people don't talk about you being on the defensive side of the basketball. So how do you think your game would translate today as it did from back then?
It'd be pretty much the same. You'd be able to do whatever you wanted to do when you wanted to do it. And nobody, teams game plan to stop you. They try to get the ball out of your hand, but you have an answer for all of that. And they just, the smart players just find a way to win. And that's what we did. And at the end of the game, they couldn't stop you anyway. So you just have to be ahead of them. You got to know what they're going to try to do to take away your weapons, and have some extra set of plan A, plan B, and plan C ready for them.
Which is also interesting too, Drex, because you're the only guy in the top 10 all time in steals, yet you never made the All-League defensive team, which is nuts to me.
Unbelievable.
Which is nuts to me. So the question that I wanted to ask you is, why was it so important when you were coming up to be a complete player?
Well, actually, because you don't want to have any weaknesses, because I didn't want a coach to say, I'd like to play you, but you're weak in this department. So you work on everything to be the best that you can be. But here's something you mentioned, Jermaine, which has always been hysterical to me. Never made an all-defensive team, which is ridiculous, right? But every year, I was always, when I retired, I was top 5 in steals all time, right? So, but here's the thing. Every year, they never kept this stat. But if you had a stat that said deflections, when a guy was getting ready to shoot or in transition, I would knock the ball out of the hand, whether it was a post-up guy, a guy driving to the basket, or if I'm the 2-on-1 and back on defense in transition, I would knock it out of their hand every game, and it would go to my teammates, so you don't get the steal. But I guarantee you I led the league in deflections almost every year I played. Sure, think about that. Sure, that's called defense. That's defense, right?
If I'm not mistaken, you guys in Portland invented the hustle board. If I'm not mistaken,
that's what it was. That's what it was.
I believe you guys invented the
deflections, the rundown blocks from behind. I was doing that in college. Brought that to the NBA. They never had a stat, but it was fun to watch.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that too, Drex, about people watching you, because you obviously got the notice of some other people. Now you ended up on the Olympic team in Barcelona, which was something that was a phenomenon. I mean, how was that experience for you?
Well, it was a tremendous experience, because it was the first time professional athletes were allowed to participate in the Olympics, right? So it was a transforming kind of deal with some great players, some legends of the game, and it was great to be a part of that. It was a great moment in time. It's been what, 30 years ago? I was probably 10 when I was on that team. And so it was a great moment, Jermaine.
Yeah, that's it. I was in college, and I was, like I said, I grew up on the East Coast, Drex, and I was a big fan of yours. I didn't get to see you as much as I would like because I was on the East Coast and games didn't come on as much as they did today.
Yeah.
But I do know as much about you as anybody could possibly. I'm a huge fan, and with that also being said, now you move on to Houston, and now you're part of a championship unit again. And how's that transition from going to being hurt and then now I'm back on a championship team and we're competing for a championship? How was that transition?
Jermaine, it was awesome because if you know me, I'm competitive. I'm one of them guys. If I don't have a chance to win, I'm going to do something different. I love the quest to be the best was what drove me, right?
Yeah.
And so when Portland started rebuilding, they took away Kevin Duckworth. I was like, hey guys, I don't want to help guys coming in and help them rebuild. I want to go try to get a championship with another team. And so we're able to work out I was healthy that year. We're able to work out the deal with Houston. And let me tell you something, it was on and popping, Kevin. I mean, Jermaine, it was the best. And, to be able to play with my good friend, Hakeem Olajuwon, once again in my 12th season was tremendous, right? But the key word, I was healthy. So all those years we had the best record in the league, had gone to the finals a couple of years. Now I'm the same guy and I'm healthy. So now I get to play with Hakeem and all the other great players like Mario Elliott, Kenny Smith, Sam Cassell, Robert Ory, Pete Chilcutt, Chucky Brown. I mean, Rudy Tomjanovich was an excellent coach. And so I had a good feeling that we were going to go back and win it all.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's also interesting you mentioned being in year 12. So now at this point, you're a vet. So one of my good friends, in fact, my best friend to this day, his name is Roderick Rose. You were on a team with him in 1997, 98.
Yeah.
And he said to me, Drex is the reason why I was able to survive because I needed a vet like that. Drex, can you talk about how important vets are in the NBA?
Vets are so important because we help the young guys. And I got the help as a young guy. We come in cocky and we know everything. You're 21 years of age, but those veterans will sit you down and get you straight. Yeah. And you absolutely need that if you're going to be around for a long time. Yeah. Roderick Rose had a lot of talent and was a very nice young man.
Yeah, he was a huge fan of yours. He mentioned to you plenty of times how much he needed you and how much how much you helped his transition. And since we're on the subject of that, Drex, my question to you is, some of your favorite places to play while you were in the league?
Well, it's pretty obvious to me. Everybody loves playing in the Forum. The Lakers are always tough to beat. They always had the most talent. And so you took it personal when you went there because you're not expected to beat them, but boy, it sure felt good when you did.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And obviously playing in the Boston Garden with all of that history was a tremendous accomplishment. And I love playing in places like Phoenix because of the weather. Obviously, Miami.
Of course, sure, absolutely.
I like the sun. I'm a golfer, so anywhere there was nice weather, now we're talking. And another reason is because you go to those cold cities. I never was one to do a lot of stretching, and so before the game, you just can't get loose. Takes you a while to get loose. But in the cities where they had heat and the sun, you come out right off the bat, ready to roll.
Places like Milwaukee, it's not as easy to get yourself loosened up as opposed to Miami. Absolutely, I understand Chicago. That. Sure. Now, if now that it's over, Drex, is there anything that you would like people to remember Drex for? What should we remember Clyde Drexler for?
Jermaine, that's a great question. The number one thing was there was nobody who had as much fun playing the game than I did on a nightly basis. And if you look at the way I played, it wasn't enough to be good in your skill level. You also had to be a showman, make it fun for the fans. And because of that, I was able to do that. I played to sellout crowds in college with Phi Slamma Jamma, sellout crowds in Portland, and they sold out before I got there. But we had like the longest sellout streak even while I was there. And then once I got to the Rockets, they also sold out. So my whole career, I played in front of sellout crowds everywhere I went. And so that's a tremendous accomplishment.
Some of my fondest memories, I'm glad you mentioned that too, Drake, because some of my fondest memories are All-Star Weekend, because I knew I wasn't able to see you as much being on the East Coast because of the Trailblazers playing on the West Coast. I wasn't able to see you as much, but I got to see you during All-Star Weekend. So I was really excited about that, considering I knew you were going to be there. I knew you were going to be in the dunk contest. I knew you were going to be in the All-Star game. So I was really excited about seeing you.
Well, I tell you what, it was really tough because, I'm in Portland. It's a small market. And like you say, you're 3 hours ahead. So you didn't see a lot of our games. And so I'm doing incredible things and transformative. And every year, if you look at the quality points, it was always Michael and I top 1 and 2 in the league for a long time. And so people go, well, how good is he? Well, he's doing this stuff over a long period of time. He's got to be pretty good. And he's leading his team to the finals. But if you didn't see that, you don't know.
Right.
Yes,
absolutely.
And then to top it off, to insult you, they put in guys, try to say guys are better than you, and those guys, some of them never make the playoffs. It's like, really? That's unbelievable. But that's sports. It's always going to be up for debate. But just know that I have nothing to prove. I had the best time ever. I did whatever I wanted to do on the court. Retired at the age of 35 and loved it after 15 years. It was a tremendous blessing just to be able to play. But anybody who played against me, they know.
Oh, they absolutely know. It's not news that you're going to have a long night. I don't care who it was, from Michael Jordan to Michael Johnson. You knew that you were going to have a long night against Drex. There was no question about that, no doubt. I've always been a big fan of yours, and I think the thing that I enjoyed the most about you is the class that you had when you played. Like, you weren't one of those guys. You were a guy that's of class, and you knew the game. And I think that was the most important thing to me, because I learned a lot watching you and watching your game. And I really appreciate what you did and what you brought to the game. So being part of the All 75 team, what would that mean to you? What did that mean to you?
Well, Jermaine, it meant a lot, because it means that you're up there with the greats to play the games. And it's a tremendous, top 50 was as nice as top 75. It's just a pleasure and an honor, because there's so many great players who have graced those courts. And to be considered one of the top 50 or 75, it's just a tremendous honor. But the main thing is that, I had some criterion for a top 75 player, and this has got to be it. I was one of the voters. Did they command the double team on a nightly basis? That should be the number one question, because you can't be truly bad unless you get double team. Think about that.
That's fact.
The teams game plan to stop you, and if they did, how did you respond? Think about that.
Yes, absolutely.
Those are my, and then, how efficient were you?
Absolutely.
Doing that.
Sure.
So those are the three questions you got to ask everyone who's on that list.
And you met all of those. You met absolutely every last one of those. There was no not checking the box with any of those. You checked the box with absolutely all of those. So
that's when you know you're truly dominant. When you check those boxes.
No doubt.
Right.
So like I said, Drex, I'm a big fan of yours. I think a lot about how people talk about the guys in today's game. And I think to myself, Clyde Drexler would have been awesome today. I don't think he would have been a good player today. I think Clyde Drexler would have been absolutely awesome today. There's no question in my mind.
Here's what I will tell you. My humility keeps me from bragging. You do know that. But
I do.
At this age, because people just don't know what they don't know, right?
Right.
There was no one faster. I ran a 4.340. There was no one who jumped higher, right? I had a 45-inch vertical. There's no one with bigger hands. I palmed the ball from anywhere on the dead run. And I was bench pressing over 300 every single year. So as a 6'7", 230-pound guard, I won't say 2 or 1. I played combo most of my career.
Right.
Unstoppable, dominant every single night. Could get to any spot. Probably was the best offensive guard, rebounding guard, during the whole 15 years I played. Just all of those intangibles, night in and night out, always out hustling guys. You get hustle points, steal points, offensive rebounding. You're very opportunistic, which is the way we played, and we hustled. You put all of that into it, and that's why you got the sum of all of those parts. But if you've never seen a game, and if you don't know how the game works, those are the things that help you win. And sometimes people who knew the game had no clue. Why is this team winning?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that too, Drex, about winning, because people don't know how difficult it is to win an NBA championship. You guys are in NBA Finals twice in 3 years. How difficult the Western Conference was back then, having to get past the Lakers, right? Having to get past Phoenix.
And the year that we didn't go to the finals, we had the best record in the entire league.
Yeah.
So that year we were supposed to win it.
Yes,
but
I
we
do
lost
remember
to the
that.
Western. I mean, so it was a dominant run. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
But
I do.
But you know, during a time when dominant teams were there, guys with 4 or 5 Hall of Famers on their team. So you're doing this, and you're not supposed to be, because you don't have the pedigree of these other teams, right?
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
we're there year in and year out, beating up on them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a tremendous time. I wouldn't change it for nothing in the world.
Well, when I think about you being the player that you were, right, and today being able to talk about it more, you know, back then you couldn't really talk about it because you didn't want to seem brash, but
exactly.
at this juncture, you could absolutely say, yeah, I was a bad man, no question about it, and I was one of the best players.
You know, night in and night out, I love the competition. The better the competition, the more I enjoy it, right? And so I never had a night, not for one night, all of my years in the league, where I'm thinking I'm going into a game and I don't have a chance to win.
Right.
I mean, think about it.
Absolutely. When you go,
Jermaine, it's a hard out. Okay, we're done.
Absolutely,
right.
no problem.
Right.
No,
thank you.
No problem.
Right.
Yep.
I appreciate you, Jermaine.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Clyde, thanks for your
Jermaine.
patience, Clyde.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah.
Okay. But hold on, Clyde. Hold on, Clyde. We're going to try to get. Let Sally and Brianna run in here.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Yes,
We appreciate
Charlie,
it.
are we gonna do any tags, or are we done? Charlie? Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Charlie, are you there?
Hey, Jermaine,
Yeah,
you
I'm
can-
here
you
now.
can hop off, by the way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jermaine. All
Yeah.
good.